Hey there, coaches and followers of the Reddit Battle League. This is Joseph, also known as Joe6, coach of the Minnesota Eon Twins. I have a little time this evening, so I thought I'd throw together a Week 1 recap video. Go through the team, Tothoro's team, who is coach of the Tacoma Tyranitaurs, our Week 1 opponent, as well as go through the team that I built, a little bit about why I built it and how I built it. Might not get into that too much, and then go through the game replay because we did this battle on Showdown this week since Tothoro didn't have his DS cartridge available. So I have the replay to go through for you, and then we'll look at the outcome. So, Minnesota Eon Twins, there's my logo right there. Been around since Season 1, Season 2 champion. No, not to brag. No, it was a good run last season. This is our current roster this year, led off by Mega Gyarados. Pretty excited to have it. Mantan, one of my favorites. Empoleon's coming back, and then a lot of other fun ones, fun threats on this team that I'm definitely looking forward to using. So Tothoro's team, here's the Tacoma Tyranitaurs. He was in the B League Season 2, so we actually haven't gotten to face off ever before. He's led off by our Water Dark rival right there, the Mega Sharpedo. So it'll be fun to have Gyarados and Mega Sharpedo facing off, along with a super good core of Clefable and Skarmory, and then a couple big threats right there with Raikou, Chandelure, Mienshao. Especially Kyurem at the end is going to have potentially spell trouble for our team if he decides to bring it. So let's go to the team that I built. We'll go back here. So we're bringing our Gyarados as well, but not Mega this battle. We're bringing actually the defensive Intimidate Leftovers set with a little bit of a different move set than we might see standardly brought. We have Dragon Dance, Bounce, Earthquake, T-Wave. So here's kind of my thought process behind this. If I get a chance to set up with Dragon Dance, both Bounce and Earthquake do a lot of damage to many of the Mons that might come in against Gyarados, barring maybe like Skarmory. Skarmory, I guess you could only catch on a roost with Earthquake, but potentially depending on his moveset, there's not much that Skarmory could do back to me. But Mienshao, Chandelure, the Mega Sharpedo, and Virizion, or Golem even, really take a beating from this set. We have the Thunder Wave to slow down things like Mienshao and Sharpedo. He's got a couple speedy mons there. Let's see if there's anything else I'm forgetting. Yeah, that's about it. You can slow down, the Sharpedo, Virizion, Mienshao. Those are all easy to switch into, barring something like Stone Edge or Rock Slide on either Mienshao or Virizion. So I think this is actually a pretty good set to take in against this team, as I don't really have a great defensive wall otherwise. Weezing would have done all right, but I think this is just going to be a little bit more fun and more useful, especially with how it shuts down his Mega potentially. Our second mon here is Buzz Lightyear, the motor driving Electivire with the expert belt. So we need motor drive to at least throw little mind games into the Raikou, make it so that you can't just throw around electric type attacks willy-nilly. If you didn't know motor drive, if I take an electric type attack with Electivire, I absorb it basically, and get +1 speed. So the set that I brought is fully offensive. We're running Modest with max attack and max-ish speed. I think I have enough speed to outspeed, I think, a timid Chandelure. And so we're running Thunder Punch, Iron Tail, Earthquake, and Volt Switch. Thunder Punch is to give it a little bit more durability over Wild Charge. There wasn't really anything that especially needed Wild Charge for. Both of them are 2-hit KOs, I believe, on Skarmory, and it doesn't do significantly more damage. I think it's both a OHKO on both Sigilyph and Sharpedo. I'm bringing Iron Tail, as fun as that is, with its, 75% accuracy. 100 power, 100 power, 75% accuracy, where is it? Somewhere on here. just as kind of a fun thing to potentially hit the either Golem or Clefable with. It does pretty good damage to Clefable. I think it's a 2-hit KO potentially, especially with Expert Belt. And then Earthquake to hit the Chandelure, and of course to hit the Raikou with, and followed by Volt Switch to get a little bit of initiative if necessary. So I think Buzz Lightyear might come in handy in this battle. Next up was Lady Crimson. So we're bringing a offensive Latias, fully speed invested, well, almost fully speed invested, enough to outspeed a timid Virizion, which is the fastest thing. I think Sharpedo, Mega Sharpedo is only base 105, if I remember correctly. You can look it up. But I'm pretty sure at speed a Sharpedo, even if it's timid, at least as long as it's not +1 speed after a speed boost. So yeah, this is Lady Crimson. We'll get back to it. It's the Life Orb Levitate only ability, so not much of a choice there. Bringing Draco Meteor, not going to get much use as long as he's got Clefable around, but could be powerful late game if we get rid of that. Psyshock, Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt hits, things that might be troublesome, such as Sigilyph and the Sharpedo. Again, it can basically OHKO the Sharpedo, I think, with Life Orb and Timid max special attack. Can outspeed and OHKO. And then Recover if we need to get a little bit of health back at any point in the game. So I've had Latios before, and it'll be interesting to see what the power and bulk difference is now using Latias this season. Fourth on our team is the Elder, Conkeldurr, running the Assault Vest. Usually you see these, I think, with Guts or Sheer Force, but I need to run Iron Fist so that Mach Punch can OHKO a regularly invested Sharpedo. At least, I believe. No, it should OHKO straight out, at least after Rocks, which we'll get to. So we're running Mach Punch, Drain Punch, also Iron Fist boosted, Poison Jab, and Knockoff. There's not really anything on his team that's going to possibly status this. Most it might be Sigilyph with a Psycho Shift Burn or Psycho Shift Sleep for some people. Yeah, or Effect Spore, or the Meowstic could Toxic Prankster T-Wave or Prankster Toxic it, which actually could be a problem. Meowstic could be a big issue for this Conkeldurr, but we might have other ways to deal with it. We'll see. You would have to take a knockoff anyway. So we're running, max attack Adamant with max special defense to give it some really good special bulk, which is kind of important for this team. We've got our defensive wall, and then we're just going to be especially bulky all around, I think. So that's all I have to say about this set, really. It's not too special outside of the Iron Fist. Poison Jab hits the Clefable, which is probably coming. Mach Punch and Drain Punch hit the Skarmory for neutral damage, so that'll be nice. Next up, we have Mumble, our especially defensive wall. I've run this quite a few times last season with a similar move set. I know that it walls Clefable pretty much perfectly, unless it's running Thunderbolt and Calm Mind and Life Orb and Magic Guard. For some reason, at that point, it's try to roar it out as fast as possible. So we're running Defog, Stealth Rock, Roar, and Scald. I think I'm running Defog in case he starts setting up spikes and rocks with his Skarmory. I was debating between running Defog and running Rest, because running Rest you really do wall the core pretty well. Otherwise you can get worn down over time, especially if there's Thunderbolts coming. Otherwise, Roar and Scald do a good job of phasing out things if I need to phase out things, or burning threats that might need to be burned. Pretty much a general all-around good move set here. Torrent leftovers for the passive recovery, since Empoleon doesn't have any real reliable recovery. So I think it's a pretty decent set, and I think in this match it'll be useful, at least just to get up the Stealth Rocks, which will really ensure some of the KOs that I need. And finally, we have Bam Bam, one of my favorite team members this season, Darmanitan. I love this. I think everybody loves it. It's just pure power and speed, and it's got great HP stat. So you really have a good amount of HP here. But we're running a Jolly one. I went back and forth between Adamant and Jolly quite a few times. Jolly Life Orb Sheer Force. Really what got me to stick with Jolly is that the Kyurem is also base 95 speed, and if you brought a timid Kyurem with like a Life Orb or something in the right set, my team would be in really big trouble. Something like, I don't know, is it Earth Power, Draco Meteor, Ice Beam, Roost, or something like that, would really do quite a bit of damage, especially if something like the Elder went down. That's about the only real switch in I would have for that set. So yeah, I had to run Bam Bam with a Jolly nature for that reason, but it actually still packs enough power with a Light Orb Sheer Force to potentially OHKO the Clefable with a Flare Blitz, running Earthquake to take care of pretty much just the Chandelure, maybe the Golem if he brings Golem. And yeah, that's about all I need Earthquake for. Fire Punch, so I don't have to take as much recoil damage potentially, and then U-turn for some switch initiative. Anything else to mention by that? Oh, I guess running the dual fire types attacks was, there's not really a need for, usually run Super Power Rock Slide, but I really didn't need it for this team, since I can hit the Kyurem for neutral. Sigilyph, if I hit it with Flare Blitz, it pretty much does the same. It doesn't really have a fire resist that doesn't take a lot of damage from something like Earthquake anyway. So that's that set, and that's the team. I really like this team. The only concerns were if you brought something like the Meowstic or the Kyurem here, or possibly Chandelure and Raikou. Those were my main concerns going into the battle. I knew that the Kyurem especially could do a lot of damage, and the Meowstic could potentially, paralyze things, set up screens, and really cause a little bit of havoc for my team. So yeah, I've got the replay pulled up here. So here are the two teams. You've seen my team. Now we'll see the one that Tothoro brought to this battle of power. Pardon me if I'm not saying your name correctly. But yeah, he brought the Sharpedo, Clefable, Skarmory, kind of like what I thought he would bring. It's pretty much the most obvious core that he has. Raikou, which was another pretty obvious bring with my kind of main weakness to water in a couple areas. And then the last two I wasn't too sure about, but he didn't bring on the Mienshao and Meowstic. Not too afraid of Mienshao. I had it season 1. It can do a lot of damage, but it's also semi-frail, despite its good speed stat. So I figured between, if it's not carrying Stone Edge, or even if it is carrying Stone Edge, my Gyarados does a pretty good job of intimidating, checking it. And then even Latias can do a decent job of checking it as well, if it needs to. And then Meowstic, I have no idea what Meowstic's going to do, but hopefully I can deal with whatever it has. Probably something with like screens and some sort of statusing move and maybe an attack or something. So with this, I decided to lead off with my Gyarados, because it does a pretty good job against everything except the Raikou, and if he brings in the Raikou, I can just switch out into Electivire. So I lead with Azul, and he lives with his Raikou, of course. So that makes me, auto switch out into Electivire. Oh, he's got Substitute. So I'm just thinking right away that I'm going to get swept by a Calm Mind Raikou, like I almost did in Season 1, I think. If this thing has something like Thunderbolt and like maybe a Shadow Ball, I think it gets Shadow Ball and some sort of hidden power. Could be some pretty good, pretty troublesome set. But then I also remember I've got Earthquake in this, and I've got Psyshock on Latias, so it's probably not going to be that bad. But he's got Hidden Power Ground, So obviously he's planned ahead, and so at that point, looking back on it, I probably could have switched out into Latias if he's got electric type. His hidden power is ground, so I'm immune to that with Latias, and that gives up his coverage with ice, which means that Latias pretty much would probably wall this pretty well, especially with recover. I'm pretty sure it gets Shadow Ball, but I might have to look that up still. I didn't look that up after the battle. But instead I let Buzz Lightyear go down and then switch out into the Elder, which is of course my Assault Vest. Take that like a champ. Goes out into Burb, get a knockoff off, take the leftovers away. He's probably going to set up his rocks or some sort of spikes here, Brave Bird. So we'll just go in and trade rocks, and he starts Whirlwinding, which I'm not really too concerned with Whirlwinds. If he brings me out into Azul, I can leftover recovery up a little bit with a bounce. If he brings me out into Darmanitan, I can just threaten him out with a Flare Blitz or a U-turn, which not a big deal. And if he brings out anything else, I'm still okay. So I'm not too worried about being whirlwinded around. But I just want to make sure he's not going to Brave Bird my Conkeldurr right there. So I switch out into Mumble, and then he gets, the whirlwinds me out into Azul, and I, hit a Thunder Wave, so maybe this fun can stop eventually. And that point, I Earthquake because I forgot that Roost, after the turn ends, he goes back to the Flying type. I thought for some reason that he might still be Steel type, but it wasn't a big deal anyway. He just whirlwinded me out anyway, and all I could do was either Earthquake or Bounce. So I could have gotten a little bit more health back, but that's about it. So out comes Bam Bam and finally scares it out, and I decide just to Fire Punch, and there's a crit. So for all of you watching, that crit did matter. I calced it. Normally I would do, I think, 70 to 80 some percent, and even after Stealth Rocks, there was like maybe a 5 or 10% chance that it would OHKO. So the crit definitely did matter. And that's kind of a big deal because he likely would have Thunder Waved Bam Bam, which would have then not outsped either of his walls and would have been a really big challenge to take those down, as we'll see later. But out comes the Mienshao. This thing's obviously faster than me because I'm Life Orb. He doesn't really know that, but I decided to go out into Azul because I know I can check it pretty hard. And then we go back to this game where we've got now Gyarados against Skarmory again, and neither one can do much to the other, so I decided to Dragon Dance for some reason. I don't know, he's got Whirlwind anyway, but I thought it would just be fun to Dragon Dance Bounce. But out I go into Lady Crimson, which allows me to fire off a Thunderbolt just in case he stays in and Whirlwinds again, because I know if he brings in this fat little Clefable, I can just go out into Mumble. So he does have the Thunderbolt, but he doesn't have the Life Orb, so it's not going to do a whole ton of damage. So now it's my turn to start roaring things. At this point, I don't really have a great switch in that I want to make to Sharknado, and I don't need Mumble that much, so I just try and go for a Scald Burn maybe if I live the crunch, but I don't. So out comes a Conkeldurr, which allows me to go for a Mach Punch and then a couple Drain Punches and take out the Burb. Since he gets fully paralyzed, not sure what he went for there. A little bit of luck on my side with both the crit and that paralysis, because I could have taken a lot of damage from a Brave Bird potentially if he had it. Out comes Fat Navi. I don't really have much I want to go for there. And Bam Bam. So I bring in Bam Bam. We'll pause it quick. I bring in Bam Bam, take Stealth Rocks, at which point I realize that I have an even amount of health, which means I can't switch in again. And especially after taking the Psyshock. So I decided to just go for the Flare Blitz, and I thankfully got, the roll was in my favor. I think I had like a 68% chance of KOing a regular, pretty normal Clefable set, and I get the KO, and I go down to my own Flare Blitz recoil. Up comes Mr. Magi, and he goes for a knockoff. as I intimidate him. We're still doing pretty decently at this point. I decide to Dragon Dance. I probably could have just Earthquaked right away, maybe taken this out, but I Dragon Dance and I was hoping to outspeed this for some reason, but I forgot I wasn't exactly speed invested. So he obviously outspeeds. That just lets me go out into the Elder and fire off a Drain Punch. He gets a crit on the Thunderbolt, which is kind of scary, as now Mr. Magi can potentially take me out with something like a high jump kick. So go into Lady Crimson, which could probably take it. And then I learned that he is Choice Scarfed, and he went for Fake Out, and now just Thunderbolt wins the game. So it was kind of scary at the end, depending on what he went for with the Mienshao, but it turns out alright, and we come out with a 2-0 victory. I think I probably would have won even with a high jump kick. He would have had to go out in the Lady Crimson, or I would have gone out in the Lady Crimson. He might have been able to KO it with a pair of high jump kicks, even if they're resisted, provided it doesn't miss. And it turns out he actually only had Drain Punch, which I think I probably would have lived and be able to get off this Psyshock, or actually a Thunderbolt would have been enough, followed by a Drain Punch and a Mach Punch against the Mega Sharpedo. As well as it was nice that the timid Latias was able to outspeed his Mega Sharpedo, which was also Jolly Max Speed, which I guess just allowed me to get the 2-0 victory instead of a 1-0, since I had Mach Punch in the back. So yeah, it was a really good battle. I haven't ever done a showdown recap like that before, so hopefully it wasn't too fast, or I was able to explain things well enough. But the Eon Twins go to 1-0 on the new season, and Tothoro falls to 0-1, but there's still a lot of time left. We have 15 weeks in this season, so it's going to be a long haul for this one. But the team really came together well. Kind of misplayed the Electivire a little bit. Could have saved that a little bit more. But really everything else kind of went pretty much according to plan. I got a little lucky, both with the crit and the full para. Really the only thing back on the other side was, I guess, his crit Thunderbolt against Conkeldurr, which ended up not mattering in the end. Potentially could have, if he had played out the Mienshao a little bit differently. I haven't calced that. I don't know if I'm going to. But yeah, it was a really fun battle. I think probably a lot of you have seen it already. So now this is, how the Eon Twins look after week 1. And then our week 2 opponent is going to be Cap and the Toronto Star Raptors, our old rival from the Kanto Red Division, who had to go through in the playoffs in Season 2. So yeah, I've already started planning for that a little bit, and it'll be a lot of fun to kind of see what he brings and what I bring. I'm hoping it'll be a good, fun battle. It always is. He's always got really crazy sets. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. I don't know if I'll do many of these in the future. I'll probably be getting busy again here shortly. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it, and have a good rest of your day.